want to try mech on this map. We've seen INnoVation go for ByuL on this one as well. He might be forced into that kind of situation because, simply as you said, the map layout doesn't really favor mech style.
Yeah. Well, ByuL had a quick chat with his coach there. We're going to go into game number 2 to see if INnoVation can tie it up, or if ByuL is going to take that 2-0 lead. Down here in the bottom right, in red, taking game 1, it's ByuL.
Really impressive game 1, really setting the tone here. And then on the top left, player yet to go mech, it is INnoVation. Yet to bring out the big guns. Starting off with that ByuL. I don't know, Wolf.
I don't like it. I think go with what you're good at, go with what you've been practicing. Don't try to do mind games versus ByuL when you're already favored versus him. No doubt his coach is telling him the same, you know. Don't try to reinvent the wheel here. It's kind of what INnoVation is known for, is just doing the same thing over and over and over again because he's so good at it. We do see an early drone scout here actually coming out from ByuL.
It's funny too, because like his mind game was to play the most standard way. And it's like, well, ByuL's like, well, thank you for making this easier for me. This is like something I can beat anyone at. Like, this is something ByuL has done to Maru, to Dream, like to anyone. Like, he is one of the best at Ling Mutabane versus mech. Sorry, Ling Mutabane versus ByuL.
Sure.
Not mech.
There's been a problem. There's been a lot of discussion right now amongst the foreign community as well as the Korean community saying, is mech too strong? Has ByuL somewhat lost its viability in this matchup? Is the map pool making mech too strong? Why is this happening? You know, why are Zerg players having such trouble with this? Is it because the Terran players themselves are just playing out of their mind right now? Is the level of Terran play higher than it's ever been? But mech is kind of the focal point of all of this discussion. And INnoVation himself is usually where it comes down to. INnoVation versus Life, probably perhaps the most famous game I see referenced discussing this. I feel like you take the meta, take what you're good at, use it against this opponent, and if it's not working, then talk to your coach about maybe we need to play a different game on, like, maybe Iron Fortress where mech isn't as strong after you lose game 1 with mech or something like that. I think it was a risk, and I don't like it. Like you said, I just don't feel like it paid off.
Yeah, maybe he wants to really save it for the maps that are really going to start to favor it. Probably after like this one, we're actually going to see those mech maps really come out in a big way. And if he gets to game 5, it's going to be on Terraform. And we've seen what INnoVation can do on Terraform with mech.
It's a terrible mech map. Like, it's terrifying. Like, it's good for mech.
Terraformable, man.
Yeah. Terraformidable strategy.
That's it. It's a big problem. But it's getting there. That is the issue. And there's no guarantee you're going to get there, even if you do go mech on the other maps, because ByuL certainly is prepared for it.
Yeah. Well, at this stage, you know, there's no tell just yet about what INnoVation's follow-up is going to be. Keep a close eye, of course, on that second gas that he took last game, but does not necessarily have to take this game.
Well, it looks like the second one is on the way. It's very similar build to last time. I guess it can go either way from here. It's a kind of it's a lot of variance in this kind of opening.
Sure.
Start with the Hellions so you can go into whatever you want to next.
Well, you know, it speaks to the predictability of what most people would expected INnoVation to do last game, but by the fact that while Stim was nearly halfway on the production tab, you and I were still talking about his mech, because that's kind of the mindset that every player is going to have going against him right now. That's what the audience is thinking. That's probably what the Korean commentators are thinking. I tried to throw this curveball last game. Let's see if he decides to do ByuL again.
He does have scary ByuL, but it feels like it's just not going to be a match for what ByuL is capable of if he sees it coming.
ByuL's Mutalist control last game, besides that one Widow Mine fiasco, that was pretty bad. Besides that, it was really good. You know, he got trapped once or twice, but was still trying to minimize his losses on his way out of the bases, on the way out of those corners, those dead air spaces. INnoVation made like 6 turrets in his main base. He still found damage. And he always had a healthy Baneling count because INnoVation was never able to fight, was never able to push creep back, so the Baneling count was always there, so he could use it for multiple things. He could use it to counterattack, he could use it to threaten, he could use it for defense. He always had like 30 Banelings on the map at any given time.
Yeah, he never really went for drops either. He didn't really try and push ByuL out of position with extra drops that are on the the fourth and the third while he pushes somewhere else and deals with creep. He never really went for that traditional approach. He went for more of a parade push, sort of pushing right at the front, but he was very, very deep on creep every time as well. So it did feel like, in a way, that he was playing a very unpracticed sort of style.
Sure. Well, Overlord's speed, a great choice here. No way he's going to make these factories in front of the Overlord. Okay, that was a close call there.
So it is going to be mech this time. Like, well, you know what? I gave it one game away. It's time to just go back to the good stuff.
Do you think that Tech Lab being out in the open like that is somewhat obvious to the mech as well?
It
might tip him off.
I mean, if that's all he sees, he doesn't see the barracks there. It's like, well, yes. It's either that or it's going to be the starport, right? So it's like, okay, I'm either worrying about Hellion, Banshee, which is pretty common on this map, or I'm worrying about like a Tech Lab for a factory, one or the other. But I don't think there's any concrete evidence just yet.
This Hellion attack here. Ooh, nice save on that weakened Hellion. Hellion attack gets, I think, one drone and a few Zerglings, but just continuing to threaten ByuL. ByuL is going into the melee upgrades here.
Yeah, hasn't detected it just yet. Here's the scary part. He's like setting his way already. He's like, okay, you went for ByuL last game. I feel like it's going to be the same this time around. Big problem, though, is going to be that 1-1. And I think you'd really want +1 range on this map, and you'd want to be doing aggressive Roach Hydra sort of styles, because it is so much easier to maneuver them around, pick at that third base with out-of-tank range.
It's so frustrating on this map at cross spawns. It's good for the Zerg in most cases, but in this case it's frustrating because even with Overlord speed, you're just struggling to get that information. You're struggling to actually get in there and scout. It's going to make defending your Overlords against Viking harass a lot easier. That's what we've already seen.
Look at this. We are seeing that Hellion drop into the main base.
Got scouted. Queens are already ready.
Oh, and they're going to be Hellbats as well, so he should be pretty worried about this. And it might actually give away the style that INnoVation might want to be planning to go to.
Good splits on these Queens, good transfuses. He's trying to find more damage here at the third base at the same time. With all these splits on the Queens and the transfuses, he's going to lose nothing. He lost the Viking to the Spore Crawlers, the Korean commentator is putting out here. A relatively lackluster attack there, not much getting done.
You just see 22 links come out, so maybe gearing up for a counter attack here. While going to Mutas, getting Baneling speed, still on the path of anti-bio. He has not figured it out that it is going to be mech. And when you're figuring it out this late, it becomes a real problem.
Now that Overlord speeded Overseer is headed over, he should be able to identify this. This is going to be the last moment of this game he does not know. We'll have enough time to cancel Baneling speed and go into something else. He is starting an Infestation Pit.
Well, that's promising. That's certainly promising. Maybe he wants to go into that Ultra style after all. Baneling speed never going to be that useful against mech there.
No. Not even really for run-bys, because there's usually enough siege tanks and wall lanes in place. Good position on these Hellbats, but there's, again, enough Queens here. He scouts the Spire timing with this drop, and already has plenty of Thors. He went 2 Thors first, so he's totally fine against Mutilus harass.
Straight into 2-2 from here as well. So looks like he wants to stay on that path. I feel like it will be Ultras then, if that's going to be the choice. Either Ultras or Broodlords, either or. Depends how you can get to them without them being detected. But we do see already Vikings are in production.
A bit surprising he keeps the Baneling speed. Perhaps just forgetting to cancel it.
I guess maybe he can find a use for it. Maybe it'd be useful if there's like a lot of Hellbats.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be useful, but in general, I would say. But
things going this around.
Good pullback here, but probably should have just transformed to Hellbats there.
Yeah.
No room to kite, losing every Hellion. So the Baneling's ending up being fairly useful there at the end. Like his 4 speed bans.
Look at this, so much gas. So ByuL certainly prepared to go late game with this. Certainly prepared to go into Ultras as well. Getting his 8 gases up and running ASAP.
I almost feel like he's going to put down both techs. Obviously, Ultras are maybe what he wants to go into first, most likely. But he might even just grab the Greater Spire while he's going Ultras. He may also opt to get +2 first, because he only has 1 Spire, to have that upgrade for later on.
28 more Lings on the way. That 2-2 half done as well.
I think he's just using these Lings to shut down the Hellions, and that doesn't always work, but in this particular case, INnoVation's control versus the Lings has been so bad that he's able to kill these Hellions and surround them every time. So I guess if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, Yeah, he's just really not finding his way in with them. The amounts are like too small to deal with the Lings, and here we go again. Big surround coming up. It's a lot of creep as well, and they are going to get surrounded. Blue does finish there.
That 2 Baneling speed.
Boom.
Just loses every Hellion again.
Yeah.
You should never be able to defend Blue Flame Hellions, especially this well with Lings.
Just with this much creep, I guess, you know, the surrounds are just that much easier.
Yeah, and the retreats are that much more difficult.
Yeah.
Once you get in there, hoping you're going to get on top of that drone line, you see those Lings, you have to run away, but they're going to catch you almost every time. He's always blocked by the Queens as well. He's got so many Queens on the map, 7 right now. Viper's on the way, Ultra's Cavern about to finish up, 5 more Queens on the way, so there's going to be a heavy Ultra Queen transfuse style.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for that mass Viper style. I feel like it really works wonders when the Viking count is low enough, but you can certainly save that for the other maps as well. This map being cross-map, I guess you do have a lot of time. You do see these tanks get surrounded and take a lot of damage.
Yeah, he's going to lose 2 tanks here, I think. Maybe even 3. Wow. That should just not be happening. These Lings are getting way too much value.
That makes life a lot easier. 8 Ultras on the way, but they're not out yet. These Queens cannot be taking hits like this. They need the transfuses available for them.
Yep. Few transfuses on the retreat. With all these Vikings, the Overlords are going to actually start to be depleted. Something else to keep in mind. Baneling's on the way here. Not a bad choice. You can do some extra splash damage. These units that stack up, plus the Hellbats, of course. They're going to be the buffer versus these Lings.
Well, here we go. 8 Ultras nearly popped out at this point. Queen should not be fighting here, I feel. They're in a bad place right now, but the tanks aren't really in range.
The Thors do so much burst damage. It's so hard to transfuse Queens versus Thors.
Here we go. All the Ultras out.
Yep, here they come from behind. These tanks are not sieged up. And this mech force is going to get absolutely crushed. Now, the damage has been done to the Overlords, and that's super easy to replace. He's got 29 Larva available. He's got plenty of minerals to replace those. Yes, it is a bit annoying, but this is much more expensive. Losing all those Thors, the Siege Tanks, the Hellbats, and also the Vikings. To be honest, he lost like 9 Vikings there.
Yeah, he lost so much of everything. You know, resetting that tank count, you know, getting rid of a lot of those Thors. Now a big counterattack with all these Ultras. On this Planetary, it's going to be hard-pressed to deal with both this army and the Planetary, but he's going to try and trade with the army.
Yeah, he's got so many Ultras here. The lack of transfuse is a bit of a problem, though.
Yeah, he might want to change it up. It looks like he will. Into Mutas he goes. Only 2 Thors out and a bunch of Vikings.
Yeah, 4 Vikings currently. The mech army is at 2-1 upgrades, I believe, right now, with +3 on the way. 3-3 on the way for ByuL, though, for those Ultras. Kaitina's plating he did not get, so that's something that he's missing as well, but somebody can surely add in a moment's notice. Second Spire is coming up, and there's the Kaitina's plating we were looking for. Getting all those very important late game tech pieces in play. This is going to be impossible to find damage. She's got Ultra Queen Wall with Lings and 2 spines, 3 spines.
Never
no way.
Going to happen. Never, ever, ever. Well, let's see what these Mutas can do. The army's kind of sitting on top of a turret, so these Mutas are going to have to bunch up and try and deal with that before they deal with the Thor or Vikings. Already 2 Mutas going down. No chance of that happening. Ooh, big damage, actually. I think this Muta switch was in vain in a big way.
Yeah. Well, let's see. There's a lot of turrets up. Like, a lot. Every base is very well protected. Sensor tower as well. 3 Thors on the way, so he forced that switch to a certain extent. And ByuL does have a really good bank.
Fairly good, but I don't know if it's enough there. He needs that bank to go pretty hardcore into the late game. And INnoVation has all the time in the world right now to just build up that perfect army.
What would you think about ByuL just taking another base right now?
I think it'd be a good idea. I think going up to like 10, 12 gases to keep the mining. Because it's a pretty important part of this time because you're not going to be finding much damage.
You're not going to walk across the map off creep with Ultras, or Broodlords for that matter, which he doesn't have yet. You know? He just needs to defend and build a bank and harass with Mutas, harass on maybe some Lings. And he even has Baneling speed. There's some opportunity there to do damage, but just trying to attack with his main army isn't working. He is taking that base now because essentially just kind of has to sit here and wait and build a bank and threaten switches and build his queen count, build his energy. Because attacking right now is just not an option. It's not really an option for INnoVation either, so it's the point where it's like, well, just get as much money as possible. That's clearly the goal at this point.
When you're on 4 bases as a mech Terran, you can sit at 4 base for a very long time and max out. With the army, you think is going to deal with what you're up against. One thing we haven't really seen, which should be kind of invested in a lot more from ByuL, is creep spread. Last game, creep spread was amazing. This time around, though, it's really been slowed down which is a surprise considering how many queens he has, 16.
Yeah, I think a lot of those just popped out. Like, I think it's 7 on the way, but there was a time where he had 4 or 5, even after that fight, where he just wasn't using them. I mean, we see a shot of these queens. We saw them for just a second. Massive amount of them, not using them.
Yeah.
We finally have that fusion core transition. I was wondering when we were going to see that. I mean, he doesn't have the biggest bank in minerals, but he's got this turtled up position that ByuL cannot attack, and he's got great upgrades. He's going to have building armor. He's got +3. He's got +2 play, and he's getting high-sec auto tracking. He's adding those orbitals. He's saying this game is going for potentially 15 to 20 more minutes, ByuL. I'm adding the BCs.
Yeah, he's in no rush at all. It's going to be up to ByuL to either find a way in or have that answer as well for that kind of army. He's just waiting. Both sides just waiting, building the banks. We do see ByuL taking that extra base as well as investing into Hydra range and +1. So preparing for that anti-air already.
Yeah. 12 Vikings in total. 11 mutas, and I mean, everybody's just kind of getting the upgrades at this point. Even the Queen upgrade now. The Hydralist Den went in. I think Hydras are pretty ineffective at dealing with BCs. Behemoth Reactor on the way.
Yeah, it's going to come down to, like, does he have the abducts for it, and is there any tanks in the ground kind of, like, hitting the Hydras as well? Kind of the army composition from both sides and what the Ultras can do to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like Hydras are going to do, like, less than 0 damage to +2 plating BCs. Like, he needs +3 for those Hydras before they're even going to scratch him, and that's just going to take so long. But he is going towards that. He's not making the Hydras yet. He's getting ready for a switch to Hydras. He just finished Hydra range. He's getting now the Hydra speed, which is going to be quintessential. +3 for his Brewlords and his Corruptors. The +1 Carapace, so the 2 Spires definitely working with him here. And ByuL has built a massive banking gas, 4,000 at this point, and it's only getting bigger. Very important for him to have that.
Well, I think Corruptors will be the main sort of counter for the anti-air as well when those BCs are on the map. But, you know, Hydra's always going to help out with that constant DPS, as well as help clean up Vikings, clean up Ravens if we see that. I'm sure we will see that. A lot of more, I guess, viability with the Hydras in terms of sniping buildings as well.
We saw a game with Rogue on Terraform that was really similar to this, where, you know, he just took more of the map. The Terran built a maxed out army with BCs. I can't remember who the Terran was off the top of my head right now. ByuL, that's right. But ByuL was never able to take any additional bases, similar to what we see here. And yeah, 4 bases is enough to max out, but when the Zerg starts getting 5,000, 6,000 gas in bank and can max with Corruptors, we're talking like 40+ Corruptors, you start to have a bit of a problem because you can never deal with that army without enough point defense and, more importantly, the Seeker Missile. That's expensive to make, and when you don't have additional bases to get your gas bank up, it's hard to do. I mean, we're looking at the situation right now. INnoVation has 2,000 gas, but how long is that going to last? Let's find out. Ultra's coming in here, blinding clouds on a few of these siege tanks, but he's losing some Vipers for this. And the BC's slowly trying to come over here. He might lose his planetary. There's a lot of transfuses available.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to try and really commit to it. He's got a lot of transfuses behind this, but then army is going to get evaporated pretty quickly. A lot of Yamato cannons going down.
Yeah, he's going to lose a lot of these Ultras, and even losing a decent amount of Queens.
There's that Corruptor Remax here.
33.
Yeah. Well, let's see what it can do. Getting rid of that base is good. I mean, the economy of INnoVation right now is pretty small, and his bank is non-existent. So if he wipes this army out, he can essentially win the game so long as he denies that base again.
What do you think about INnoVation, considering where he is at resources-wise and what he's about to be up against, which he hasn't scouted yet, but he can reasonably assume already starting to invest in Ravens? I think would be a good choice.
INnoVation, yeah, I think Ravens are pretty key at this point, considering where his gas is as well. He has so much more gas that he needs to use, but he's so set on investing in BCs right now and Vikings. He wants to have that fight without any sort of Seeker missiles, which I think is a mistake.
Yeah, because he can win a few fights with BCs versus 30 Corruptors with Yamato, good Viking kiting, maybe hiding behind his turrets. But the same sort of a situation happened to ByuL versus Rogue on Terraform is going to eventually happen. He's going to run out of money. And these units are not only expensive, but they take a long time to produce, whereas a Zerg player like ByuL, as long as he has the money, can instantly make 30 Corruptors in one moment. The build time of one Corruptor is the build time of 30 Corruptors when you have that much money and you have that much larva.
I think the difference between the Rogue in this game, though, is that he applied the pressure a lot earlier, and Hydras were still relevant when they were trading it out. So he put himself in a very comfortable late game. Here, INnoVation's had a lot of time to build up that army. He is maxed out, and he has that ideal composition. So it's going to be a bit of a harder fight here, but you know, these Thors as well, maybe it's going to be a bit more hard-pressed than we think with all these Corruptors.
I really do like that he is taking this 5th base behind his 3rd now. He's pushing towards that. He's turret pushing it. Let's see how long these turrets last against this many Broodlords. So 7 Broods on the map.
Look at this. Look at all these targets up. It's going to be so hard for the Corruptors to find the fight, but they're going to commit to it anyway.
Yep, they're actually in a great arc right now. Yamato Can's going down on several of them here. Not enough corruption being used on these BCs, I feel. He's not really using it at all.
None at all, actually, so far, which could be a big mistake there. Every single Viking's essentially been wiped out.
Yeah, Dowie's is actually, with all these Queens on the ground as well, and that extra DPS, plus the Transfuse, he's actually pushing this back. Is he actually going to win a fight versus BCs? 18 Corruptors being remaxed. The last BC falls. He's still fighting underneath 2 turrets and 4 Thors.
Yeah, I mean, he got rid of a lot of the air, which is a good thing, and he does have the money to remax. It's going to be about making the right choice of remax, but he's still going to deal with these ground armies. The ground army and the planetaries.
I wouldn't even be mad at him if he made a few Lings to deal with these tank mode tanks here. I mean, the Lings have 3/3 upgrades. It's like letting these tanks walk all over him right now.
It's going to be Broodlords is the answer here, which is interesting.
He has a Roach Warren also. He actually made that. It's not going to be that relevant, but he's definitely got possibility of making those Roaches.
I think Ultras wouldn't be a bad choice either. I mean, Broodlord, Ultra, Viper, and a ton of Corruptors to wipe out the air. At this point, I mean, with the lack of BCs and the lack of mobility with the army, he could be hitting either the 5th or the 4th fairly easily.
And notice the bank problem that INnoVation has again. Now he's only able to make 2 BCs at a time. Yes, he is making some Vikings, which is part of this, but I really like how many turrets he's adding. It makes it so much harder for ByuL to actually zone these units out and actually take favorable engagements. The longer the engagement goes, he falls into the turrets.
Yeah, and at the same time, I mean, this is what we saw from INnoVation against Snoot. Like, he just wants to get up to that critical mass of turrets, so there's no way Corruptors can really commit to these kind of air fights.
Yeah. But the Broodlords here are, you know, doing that job for them. The Broodlings getting on top of these turrets, doing so much damage. The turrets barely have any health, even with building plating. Finally, a few mutas come out to help deal with these tanks.
Oh, that hatchery so low.
He's going to lose it.
Down it goes.
He's still got a huge bank and 89 drones. Trying to bait these Vikings, it looks like, away from the turrets. And the Vikings have so much mobility. Corruptors can't chase.
Really use Infestors with this kind of composition if you want to catch out these Vikings as well.
He got pathogen glands. He did research that, but no Infestors on the map just yet. It's a bit surprising. He's got the bank to do it. It looks like he's just very heavy-handed on these Corruptors, just pressing that C key, man. He's really bringing them out there.
Yeah, I guess he's doing pretty well with them so far. He's still got a healthy bank behind it as well, so he can afford it. But the longer INnoVation gets to mine on this 5th, the more comfortable he's going to be with trading this as well.
Yeah, he's got 4 Thors, and that's about all he needs with ByuL trying to take these trades near his turrets. I'm trying to think of what other things ByuL could do. There's enough siege tanks to where any sort of ground composition like Hydra Roach is just going to be so difficult to actually push through with.
I think he needs to start committing to more abducts. I think that's going to help out a lot against this competition. But here we go again.
Oh, a huge arc here with these Vikings. A very tough fight here for ByuL. He's using Corruption this time, but there's just so many Vikings here. Plus the Thor's doing so much extra damage, and the Yamatos as well. Siege tanks on the ground get blinded clouded, but who cares? This is an air battle.
Yeah, this is actually a really bad fight here.
I can't believe he's actually just committing to this.
Yeah, they was way too bunched up.
This is clearly just like wrong. Everything about this is just wrong. He's remaxing with 11 Ultras and 6 Hydras.
Yeah, those Thors actually got so much damage off on that clump of Corruptors, even though they don't do extra damage to them. Just that many Thors doing that much damage to such a clump is ridiculous.
It was just way too efficient of a trade. And now INnoVation can actually counterattack. The bank that ByuL once had is severely diminished.
Well, he's got to be careful because there is that one last remax from ByuL. He's got to make sure he identifies what the composition is and what he can do with his current composition.
That's why he's scanning all over the place. He's trying to figure it out.
He sees Hydras. That's a good sign as well. It's going to be that ground switch. So he's like, okay, I kind of have to make sure I do not commit too far on the map or I do lose bases.
Yeah. You know, more BCs wouldn't hurt at this point, but it's so expensive you just can't afford them. Yamatos would be great against this BC, or rather this Ultraless heavy composition.
I do like... I still am a big believer of Ravens, though. The gas bank is essentially gone as well. He's making 4 tanks at a time, which is very smart, and here we go. If he stops these Vipers from getting their...
Blinding clouds, both. Very important here. This position on these tanks is so sick. So difficult for them to engage. These blinding clouds on the ramp are terrible. They're just misplaced. They're just simply not hitting any Terran units.
This is a bad place to be once again. And, you know, ByuL, despite that huge supply lead, he's not finding any work with it. Just horrible positions to fight in. Ultras are not good at this kind of situation.
He's still building a bank, though, and INnoVation is not. INnoVation is struggling to remax, and these tech switches are going to become a bit of a problem. Every single unit that ByuL kills is a win in my book because, I mean, look at the gas. He's got 100 gas, 200 minerals. At 34, nearly 35 minutes into this game, ByuL has the ability to switch into multiple different types of techs. You know, he can switch into more ultras. He can go into broodlords. He can make Mutalists. It would probably not be ideal with all the turrets and Thors on the map. Actually, he's now out of Thors. Yeah. I'm going to say that.
Well, I think, like, it's all going to come down to can INnoVation hold the next two bases here. Like, if he can half the map, he's going to be in a great place. But he is so pressed at this point, he cannot afford a bad trade ever again or until he starts to build a bank again. If he can get this base, it's going to really open the game up.
Ultraless Burrow!
Wow. Wow. That actually happened.
I don't even think he noticed.
No, he didn't.
He's like, what?
He's like, what? It's an Ultra. Oh, my God. Oh, look at this.
Oh, this is a good opportunity. These tanks are on siege. I don't think he can really find a good fight here, but this I like. Break 4 Ultras off from the main group, send them over to hit that base, and then just retreat here. Maybe take some Vikings with you on your way out.
Yeah, not a bad choice. He's going to lose a chunk of those Hydras as well as most of those Ultras. He's going to stop this base once again, though, and that's the biggest part of all.
Yeah, ByuL now has 7,000 minerals and 3,000 gas. And, you know, the bank gives you options. The lack of a bank for INnoVation means he's just struggling to hold on to these new bases and failing, in fact.
Here we go again. More burrowed stuff, more burrowed queens this time. But it's going to get down finally, and that's going to really bring a breath of fresh air in INnoVation's income. He needs it so badly at this point. Yeah, this tank just, you know, whatever. Stop that gas income. It's going to help.
Small victories.
Wow.
That's Mule Town.
That's 22 mules.
Population mule.
That's actually like too much mules. They're not efficient anymore.
Yeah.
That's like 6 too many or something.
Yeah, Banelings would love to run into that. Fungal on that. So nice. Few more drone kills here, but ByuL has 76 harvesters. He's got, you know, enough bases for 76 to be pretty good. I don't think he wants more than that, to be honest.
No, that's actually might even be too much if he wants to make an army to kill this. And that's actually something we haven't really noted on, the lack of Hellion run-bys. They're such a crucial thing against Zerg when you're going mech, because they do. Your Hellions are going to two-shot drones, so they're so efficient. But we just don't see it from INnoVation. Yeah,
it's like, especially in the early part of the late game phase, if you know what I mean? Like the early part of late game, they're so strong at stopping a Zerg player from building a bank. Turret wall, what up?
Wow, that's a big investment. No wonder he has no minerals. He's going to try up there, and there's no tanks in position currently.
Those Hydras and Ultras are like, is this real? This must be a trap.
Oh, 3 mutas. 3 mutas.
+3 attack. That base actually might have to be canceled. He's already pre-splitting them.
So funny.
The rest of his army isn't doing much, though. I feel like a lot of these players are really timid to be aggressive versus mech. We're not seeing very many abducts. We're seeing mostly blinding clouds attempted to be used on these aggressive engagements, and they haven't been very good so far.
Really? Yeah, needs more inspiration from Rogue for sure. Well, they're gonna get cleaned up here, but that was a big delay. Uh-oh, look at this.
Oh man, I don't know about this. It's a lot of turrets here at the front. The blinding cloud is really good though. And where are the rest of the siege tanks? They're out of position. They're coming in. This is a great cleanup here for ByuL. And in come the BCs. There's a lot of Vikings with basically just dead supply. Now going to land them.
He shouldn't be fighting here, though. This might be the bad choice from ByuL. He did trade out a lot of tanks. He does have that bank as well. Going too deep would be a big problem.
With +3 on these Vikings, you know, they do rip through those Hydras super fast. I mean, he's got a lot of those Vikings. It's not just 5, 6 Vikings we're talking about. This is 10+. Fighting like this with siege tank support.
8 more Ultras on the way as well. So he's sticking to that ground army. Is that the right choice in this sort of situation? Hard to say.
It is hard to say.
He's got 16 Vikings. He's got 6 battle cruisers. If you wipe that out with enough Corruptors and then go into Broodlords, maybe that's your sort of game-winning army. But at this point, they're maxed out, both sides. And this army that ByuL's making is going to kind of feed into what INnoVation has got planned already.
He's already up 50 army supply with the lack of SCBs as well. Like you were saying, it might be too many drones. It absolutely might be. I mean, That's 168 supply of mech.
Yeah, that's actually a big problem, and that's why we saw what ByuL had melt against what INnoVation was defending with, despite those blinding clouds.
Like, that subtitle in the brackets at the bottom of the screen says meching intensifies right now.
It's getting to that stage, you know, there's enough command centers, enough orbitals out, so you don't even need the SCVs. The army is just too big, and there's no way Zerg can keep up with it without destroying their economy. Here we go again, and I don't think this is a good fight off creep.
ByuL, he's just going to do it, though, man. I think this is a terrible choice, but what choice does he have?
Oh, man. Decent blinding clouds, though.
But look at the BC air-to-ground damage. Is insane.
So much. Only Queens left over at this point as well. The Vikings didn't even have to land.
Oh, man, this army got wiped. And he's going into Corruptors, but it was just like, well, you killed 18 supply units for 100 supply of yours. Your bank's big, but it's not that big.
Yeah, well, Corruptors as well. At this point, I don't know. I mean, you've kind of burnt your bank again. You have 1,700 left of gas, but that's going to be all gone by the time you max out. Once this army's repaired up, he could just go for an attack and actually start killing the Zerg.
I feel like if this is any indication of what we're going to see the rest of the series, I don't like this does not bode well for ByuL. He's been massively ahead in bank, ahead in bases. He's struggled to engage. He's taken sloppy engagement several times. His failure to use abducts really worries me. It almost feels like he's playing nervous, like he doesn't know what he wants to do. He's got options, he's got ideas that kind of make sense, but the execution is a bit off.
Yeah, now we're seeing a Hellion run by finally. Not going to find too much there. A lot of these bases have been mined out. These queens do have a lot of transfuses.
Some of these bases have like 4+ spine colors at them as well.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing of all, the scariest thing of all for ByuL is his choice of composition and letting it go to this part of the game. Like letting it go so late is, I feel like, has been a big blunder on his part considering what he could have done.
Yeah. ByuL attacking into this many turrets, and Vikings going to have to say no on that one. Well, he's just going to do it anyways. Some queens here for transfuses, but this is just so much damage. The blinding clouds are really good on top of these siege tanks. The turrets continue to do so much damage, so he's fighting under like 6 turrets of damage.
Yeah, blinding clouds gone as well. So many BCs and Vikings left over. The Corruptors will have no chance at all, and all the ground is gone from these tanks.
And ByuL no longer has a gas bank. It's gone.
It's all links now, baby, and that's not going to work against as many tanks.
No, especially not with BC support. I think this is actually his game.
That's game.
GG.
Wow.
What a game there. INnoVation ties it up with a 45-minute-long mech game.
Look at that smirk. He is happy with that one. He's like, yeah, you might have beaten my bio, but you're going to spend all game long crashing into a wall of mech, and you're not going to have a chance of defeating it. Coach running in, trying to be like, hey,